now that I think about it.
Have you
Then
taken a 180 turn on Isco?
mm, I am a bit more doubtful about starting Isco against the deep block. I think both the Real Sociedad game and the Atalanta game showed that Isco is still an extremely useful asset against a team that presses you high. Against the deep block, I am a bit less convinced, and I would still say that the priority against the deep block should be having players who can make good runs, which kind of leads me to my next point of who are going to start as the attackers beside the striker this time around, because I hear there are kind of stronger rumors about Valverde starting. What do you think?
I mean, if I love Valverde in general. In any game, I would honestly, to be honest, trust him because I think he's versatile enough to everything. Like you're talking about runners and cutters in the box and all that stuff. I mentioned this to Jeremy yesterday. In a lot of ways, Fede is our version of Marcos Llorente. Obviously, not at a devastatingly efficient offensive rate the way Llorente is, but in terms of just making those dangerous runs in the right half space, Fede does that really, 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 really well. And it just causes all kinds of chaos. I mean, we see it on a micro level every single time he plays. We saw it immediately off the bench last game. You know, we've seen it even more tangibly, like in terms of results against Barcelona in the Clásico with the goal he scored there. Was it last game where he had that back heel to Vasquez, the hockey assist from kind of a similar position? So I think I will never like turn down the idea of Fede starting, to be honest. I trust him a lot in a game like this.
Yep. And the other thing, another tactical bit that I forgot to mention about Atleti's defense. They commit so many players to that last line of defense that lately I've started to see a deficit where they have so many people defending that last line that they kind of forget they don't have enough men like close to the penalty spot and zone 14. It is one way, if you can get into good cutback positions, what you would like to do ideally is do that, like get to basically to the end line and send cut back to the penalty spot. And there's a good chance that Atleti's armor will be a lot lighter in that zone. And Fede is good at making those kinds of passes. Modric, Rodrigo are good at making those kinds of passes. So I say this as the players that I would personally would enjoy seeing starting this time around. Like some crazy thing, like it wouldn't be beyond Zidane, and I wouldn't be, for example, I wouldn't be upset by the idea of something like Vinicius left winger or and Fede in right wing.
We've seen Fede play the right wing before, and it's not a traditional thing, obviously, like a traditional right winger role, but it's actually he's underrated in that role. He can cause a lot of chaos as this non-traditional right winger who just kind of makes all these devastating off-ball runs and can actually just carry the ball quite a bit too. You mentioned the space on top of zone 14. Does that maybe leave room for keep our eyes on a long Toni Kroos shot, like a cutback to a wide open Toni Kroos at the top of the box?
Oh, that would be fun. That would be a goal I would enjoy. I would enjoy a lot. And yeah, so I think the other attacking options beside the strikers are where we have a bit more doubts about what Zidane will do. Isco has been playing well, which is why he could consider it. I just think that the context versus Atleti, the tactical context, is very different from what it was in the games that Isco did well, like Atalanta and Real Sociedad. So I have less trust about starting Isco there. Asensio, at this point, I don't trust him in any tactical context, to be honest. So I think after what we saw from Valverde, Vinicius, Rodrigo against Real Sociedad, I do think they are kind of the way to go. And especially against a defense like Atleti's, you need the kind of aggressive movement that these three players offer. So I think there is a strong argument for starting them over, say, Isco or Asensio.
I know you kind of already have touched on this indirectly, but what do you think are the key matchups in this game?
So a bit like last time, I think the most decisive matchup is still Mendy versus Llorente.
Hmm.
It's kind of amazing that we're saying this in 2021, but Marcos Llorente is the most important player in Atleti's attacking system. If you get to nullify him, then you nullify a lot of Atleti's threat. This is what happened back in December. Mendy won that duel. If he can win it again this time around, that'd be great. So that's a big one.
What did we miss, Jose? It's easy for me to kind of miss things because this conversation has been all over the place. But is there anything that we haven't hit that you feel is important before we wrap it up?
Thinking about this, like, for example, matchups on the offense is always a bit difficult when I talk about Atleti, because it's not against Atleti. It's very hard. Atleti are such a good defense that it's very hard for a single player to make a difference. I'm not going to tell you that, Benzema against this player could be a threat. It's usually not how it works with Atleti. Breaking down Atleti is a collective job. And that's really why these guys are arguably the toughest defensive side on the planet, because it really forces you. It's a team that has gotten so good at what they do that a lot of the time you just, those bits of individual brilliance that decide other kinds of games, a lot of the time they don't happen against Atletico, and that's the problem. I don't see any key matchup from our attackers with them that I would say, oh, this is going to be decisive. No, we just have to be really, really good at moving the ball around and disordering their defense if we want to have a chance.